When it comes to your equity programs, how do you tell the difference between fad and fashion? And more important, how do you know which trends are right for your equity programs? In today's video, I'm going to talk about 2 innovative ideas for equity awards that you might want to consider. The ideas that I'm going to talk about today are covered in the NASPP webcast, Determining if the Latest Trend is Right for Your Equity Plan, which is presented by Zach Crumpton of Global Equity Advisors, Marian Freebell of Dolby Laboratories, and Denise Glagow of Baker McKenzie. First idea I want to talk about is the idea of a cashless ESPP. You're familiar with the idea of a cashless stock option exercise. This is the same thing, but for your employee stock purchase plan. On the purchase date, employees get a loan for the difference between what they've elected to contribute and the maximum amount that they could contribute to the plan. That allows them to purchase additional shares, and then immediately after the purchase, they sell some of those shares. Because the purchase is at a discounted price, they won't need to sell all of them, but they'll sell some of them to pay back the loan. And then the employee ends up with the net shares as a result of that transaction. So it's really more like a sell-to-cover transaction, but for your employee stock purchase plan. I really like this idea for ESPPs. I think that it equalizes the opportunity that is available to your employees. Right now, your lower paid employees may not be able to participate in the ESPP, or they may not be able to contribute all the way up to the maximum. And this would allow them to get up to that maximum so that they're realizing the same benefit from your plan that your higher paid employees are. But as was noted by the panel in the webcast, there are definitely some current concerns that you need to think about. With this type of program, you're likely to have more employees participating in the ESPP, and they'll be participating at a higher level. That means more shares are going to be purchased, that means more expense, and it means that you might end up running through your share reserve a little bit faster than you expected. Also, education is a concern. It is important for employees to understand how the loan works, how it's going to be repaid, and any costs that they might bear in exchange for the loan. And then with anything like this, there are always global considerations to worry about. Even though same-day sales are fairly widespread and are pretty much done worldwide, this is a little bit different. It's in your employee stock purchase plan. It's not on a stock option. Regulators may be a little bit suspicious of it or confused by what's happening. And also, because it's happening in the ESPP, the laws that apply outside the U.S. may apply differently to this transaction than they do to stock options. All right, next idea I want to talk about is an equity choice program. With this type of program, employees get a choice. They could choose maybe between cash and stock, or maybe they're choosing between different types of equity vehicles, say RSUs and stock options, or maybe they could choose to get a combination of both. I also really like equity choice programs. I like them because I think they get employees engaged right up front as an active participant in your equity program versus a more traditional program where employees really play a very passive role until it comes time to settle the arrangement. I also think that these arrangements can help mitigate the impact of stock price volatility, because when employees are making their choice, they're going to have to consider different possible stock price outcomes and how that might impact the benefits that they realize under the equity award. Now, as the panel talked about, there are plenty of considerations to think about. For the panel, one big concern was employee remorse, that employees would make a decision and then later on regret the decision that they had made. In order to avoid that, you're going to need a robust educational program right at the outset when employees are making their choice so that they can make an informed decision. Now, personally, I think you should have a robust educational program, whether you have a choice program or not. So I'm not really convinced that your choice program education needs to be any more robust than what I really think you should have for your traditional equity program. And on top of that, it is much easier to educate people when they're paying attention. And giving employees a choice right up front when they're granted their equity awards is a way to really make them pay attention. In fact, we've had a number of issuers present on equity choice programs over the years at the NASPP conference, and they've all said that same thing, that they thought the education was going to be really hard, but that when they actually got into it, they realized that because employees had to make this choice, everybody was engaged in paying attention, and it wasn't as hard as they thought it was going to be to educate employees. And then lastly, We're back to the global considerations. You always got to worry. If you have employees outside the U.S., you've always got to worry about how these are going to be regulated in other countries. And having a choice up front could change how the laws apply in different countries. For example, in some countries, employees might be taxed up front because they have this choice. So those are the two ideas that I wanted to talk about today. These were covered in the webcast and more. The webcast is definitely worth your time. There are several other ideas covered as well. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed my video, and I hope you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you're notified when we post future videos.